Hello, my soul friends. It's Victoria, the soul nurturer. I'm going to try something different this time. I'm kind of learning as I'm going or learning as I'm growing with these videos here on YouTube, which in itself is a huge growth opportunity for me. It's something I reluctantly decided to do because I have an intention of outreaching to support others in a greater way. And I've been doing the work I'm doing for over 20 years, and I've got some things to share that might be helpful, and that's my mission. So here I am. So what I have been doing at this up until now is doing a transformational talk and then a meditation separately. So I'm going to try to combine the two and see how that works. I'm open to your feedback, your suggestions. We'll just see how it goes. How about that? So the topic today is our inner child. Now, this was the number one request I got when I first announced I was going to do a YouTube channel, and I invited my clients and friends to offer some suggestions for topics. This was the number one. It actually surprised me, but I understand it. It's very important and powerful and potent work to be aware of our inner child. Now, I'm going to tell you a backstory before I get into my take on working with the inner child, and then I'm going to do a guided meditation and connecting, reclaiming the energy of our inner child. But years ago, when I was doing my deep inner work, going to a therapist, going to 12-step programs, I was going to ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics. I think they've renamed that to something else now. And then I also did some CODA 12 steps. Really helpful, really great stuff. But I'll tell you, the ACA was Adult Children of Alcoholics, really was profoundly healing for me because it put into context what my experience was having to be the adult child as a child, because there wasn't an adult to be the adult for me. Those of you who understand that term understand what I'm talking about. My mom was an alcoholic, pretty severe alcoholic, in that if she was home, she was usually unconscious. So very hard to grow up in that. However, lots of strengths and gifts came from that. But I didn't understand that until I went through this program, this 12-step program. And so early on, I was very, very insecure person, very, timid and quiet. Some of you can't even believe that. And here I am talking to all of you out there, my 68 subscribers. Anyway, I'm sitting in the group and getting to know these women. And one by one, I think it was a Monday meeting, and they were talking about the weekend. And one by one, each woman would share, and they all were sharing something like this. Well, I took my little girl to the beach this weekend, and we had a great time. Next woman, well, I decided to let my little girl do some artwork. And one by one, they kept going, and each and every one of them talked about their little girl. And I was like, wow, what are the chances that all of these women have a daughter? And then I realized, as they continued, they were talking about the little girl inside of themselves. And I thought that was really bizarre. Honestly, that was my first response. Like, well, that's just a little cuckoo. So, I didn't receive it and understand it as the potent medicine it is at that time. It took a little while. I think I worked with my therapist a little bit on that at the time. And in fact, I do remember we did a guided imagery. My therapist at the time was working directly with John Bradshaw. And if you don't know John Bradshaw, it's kind of he's one of the leaders in this work, inner child work, reclaiming the inner child. His work is a little dated now, but it's still very powerful, very relevant. He has a book called Homecoming, which is all about reclaiming the inner child. Anyway, my therapist was working directly with him, so he did some of John Bradshaw's work with me. And we did a meditation this one day early on. This was a while ago. I can't remember exactly when. Let's just say a while ago. And he was trying to connect me to my inner child. And at that time, I was so deeply disconnected I couldn't even image myself as a child. Okay. So, of course, I went on to do the work, and it became the most profound transformational moment in my life when I finally connected that awareness, how disconnected I was from that inner child. Now, when I'm talking about inner child, obviously there isn't a child alive in me, but there is the energy of that child at any age we are. And what I have found in my work as a therapist, as a hypnotherapist, as a soul guide, and continuing to do my own work, is that at various stages of our life, this essence of the child that we were is kind of frozen in time, especially if we weren't able to navigate those stages of development, especially if we didn't get our needs met in the way we needed them met. And again, always when I talk about inner child work with my clients, I always say this isn't a blame game. We give grace to our parents, for they did the best they could with their programming they had, with the parenting they received or didn't receive. So this isn't about blaming. This isn't about being a victim. This is about reclaiming our potential and purpose. So that's truly what I believe. We come in with purpose and potential in our souls, and in our human experience, we need to cultivate that by getting certain needs met at the level of the soul, and in our childhoods, in our adulthoods, in our human experience. I call it the soul recipe. Well, that is, we've got this unique purpose, and to activate it, we need certain needs to have that happen. Of course, we all have certain needs, basic needs we need to meet: safety, security, belonging. And then there are unique needs we need a little bit more of. So I'm going to explain more about that in just a moment. So, okay. So we come in with purpose, and we need, hopefully family members, mother, father, if we're lucky. I didn't grow up with that. But loving mirrors to reflect back to us, to help us feel safe in the world, to help us grow that potential and our purpose. So in any given time, and it doesn't have to be an extreme event, it could be benign life events that we begin to, as children, to shut ourselves down or to sort of freeze, and stop really becoming what is possible. So the inner child work is about reclaiming that potential. It's essential for us to deliver our purpose by reclaiming that potential. I believe that our potential's in that child energy, okay? So, in any given moment, in our childhood growing up. Now, I often say, and I learned this through, again, my years of practice, seeing this over and over again, it's such a phenomenon. It's so interesting to me, and I still recognize it in myself. I still have to watch myself with this, and I still have to call myself back when I go into this pattern. Our primary reference is our same-sex parent. So we tend to, this is really, see if you can follow me here. We tend to create a loyalty bond, whether that parent was present to us in the way we needed or not. We create a loyalty bond. And in that loyalty bond, we become loyal to the way they were with us or they weren't with us. I'm going to say that again because it's like, what? We become loyal and committed to and connected to the way they were with us or not with us. And in addition to that loyalty bond, we can take on some of their patternings because it's sort of the way that we connected and the way that we got put in our love file. This is love. This the way this person is, that is supposed to be the one showing me love. This is how I receive love. Doesn't mean it's a good way. We imprint it as love. I'm getting a little too complicated and deep here, so I'm going to go back to just this real simple, not so simple concept that I have discovered. And I'll use myself as an example. My mother, being an alcoholic, obviously was not present. And in not being present, there was a lot of neglect, okay? And so I can find myself at this age neglecting myself, neglecting my needs, neglecting my potential, neglecting, get it, right? So you could probably find that in yourself, a way that maybe your mom was or wasn't with you, or your dad, and ask, where are you continuing that with yourself right now? here's another huge, I'm giving you big insights today. We tend to, I call it cultivating our soul medicine. We grow the thing that we needed that we didn't get, and we often give it to others. We skip over ourselves to give that soul medicine. Obviously, this is why I call myself the soul nurturer. I didn't receive nurturing. I did not receive that kind of parenting that was helped me cultivate my abilities, my uniqueness, my strengths, my potential. There wasn't a present, compassionate, loving, nurturing parent in my life. So that's my superpower. That's what I do for people. The healing is learning to do that for myself. So this is why working with the inner child is so important. Reparenting ourselves, reclaiming the essence of that child, so important. So here is the way we do this. A couple of ways. Number one, identify in yourself what are some of your superpowers. By what is it that you needed as a child that you didn't get, that you are already giving to maybe your kids or your friends, your loved ones, and to ask yourself where that is still needed. Okay. It's also important to notice when we feel helpless or incapable or in a lot of fear. That's not the adult self. That's that inner child, in my opinion, anyway. So right now we're in this collective time of that can be very fear-provoking. And some of us can feel helpless, not knowing how to respond to what is. Well, that could be an indicator that we woke up that inner child, and the inner child is trying to navigate life for us. And the inner child, it's not their job to navigate life. A lot of people as children learned that they had to be the responsible ones, but they weren't capable of being responsible. That's one of the indicators of a adult child, of an addict, feeling super responsible, but not having the skills to do that. Okay, because we had to go into the action of being responsible before we were fully developed. So. I'm getting off track a little bit. I just heard a knock on my door, so I'm going to just keep going, though. Threw me off a little bit, but I'm going to keep going. And so being present to what it is we offer others and being curious about who needed that. What aspect of us, what age were we when we most needed that? Another way to do inner child work is to identify some of those negative core beliefs you have. And here's why: because our negative core beliefs start when we're really younger. We create them when we don't have the capacity to say that's not true. My mom not being present, or my mom drinking and me not being able to stop her from drinking, created a very big negative core belief in me, which was I failed. Now, I was 9 years old. How I failed because I couldn't get my mom to not drink. So when I'm in my I'm failing mode, I know that I am in that inner child energy rather than my adult capacity and cognitive ability to recognize all the ways I have done pretty well, So you can identify a negative core belief and begin to be curious of when that was developed, or when you can be present to when you were younger, a need wasn't met that was needed. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. And basically what we'll do in the meditation is we'll go back. Imagine just going back to a time when you as a child most needed someone to offer you what you needed. Again, the thing you offer others is probably what that child needed. Okay, the primary needs of a child and our inner child and ourselves: the need to be safe, the need to be seen, the need to be valued, the need to know that you matter, right? And of course, shelter and food, all of Maslow's, it's identified in the hierarchy of needs, all of those, right? So really just to ask yourself, what did I most need that I didn't get? And I tend to give that to other people, right? That's a good way to think of it. So, and when we do this inner child meditation, I would invite you to journal right after. I'll ask you to make some agreements with this inner child and just notice what happens. I'll tell you, when I first did this years ago, and again, I was like, what are you even talking about, inner child? But I had the coolest experience, and it showed me how deeply separated I was from that inner child. When I walked out of my therapist's office, I could imagine this little girl trailing behind me. It makes me tear up. Trailing timidly behind me, not knowing if she could trust me, because she didn't have a lot of inner trust. She didn't have people as adults around her that she could really trust. And so there she was trailing behind me, and I was like, wow, that's weird. I don't know what's happening, but I could feel her, and I could feel her fear, and I could feel her doubt, and I could feel how much work it was going to take for me, or at least willingness and consistency and presence to be a warm, loving space for that energy, that inner child energy to return. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's go into the meditation. Allow yourself to just get comfortable right where you are. You could stay seated or you can lie down right now. And basically, I'll just go ahead and turn my music up a little bit. And first thing to do is just close your eyes and just turn within. Just breathe into your body, being willing to connect inward to yourself. Just noticing initially how you're feeling after this conversation about inner child. Notice if any fear arose or any feelings of being uncomfortable, or maybe you even got a little weepy. I often think of the inner child as frozen energy, and that when we're crying, we're actually thawing that old energy, reclaiming it with the warmth of our love and compassion. So you may notice some tears, and that's okay. Breathing in, connecting into the adult that you are, the wisdom of your being. The first thing I'd like you to do is just be present to how you are in your life right now. We're going to look in two ways. One, in the ways that you are adulting, that you have created a life around you and perhaps have studied and learned and have been trained in a certain career. Just you in the world as the adult. Maybe you have kids of your own, you as the parent. And I also want you to look at you as the friend. It's a really great window to look through how you are with those you love, your friends, those you champion and cheerlead and support and encourage, or whatever you do. Because the way you are with others in your most loving self is what your inner child is still needing. So breathing into your body, put your hands on your lap or on somewhere, maybe your arms, just connecting to the body, this lifelong companion that has lived through everything we have lived through, and just making that contact and connection. And you can imagine breathing in some healing energy, some calming, soothing energy. And for those of you who might feel like a desire to connect to your faith, go ahead and say a prayer. Prepare yourself. Call in what you need. And breathing in now all the way into your heart and through your heart down into your belly. And just giving this reference or this suggestion to your subconscious mind. It is safe for me to connect to my inner child. It is safe for me. Now I want you to simply imagine, if you were in my office, I would be doing more of a hypnotic, dropping you into a deeper state, but we're just doing more of a relaxed meditation. So you may notice the sounds around you, but come back to my voice and come back to your inner work. Breathing in what you need in any moment, breathing in safety, exhaling any fear. Now I'd like you just to simply imagine creating a safe place. And I always suggest in nature, but it can be anywhere that feels safe and sacred and secure to you. And dropping into this safe place with all of your senses, feeling the temperature, and you can make it the perfect temperature for you. Using the power of your mind, you can create it any way you want, any way you need. And you can listen for sounds around you that are soothing and reassuring and comforting. Any fragrances that allow you to feel really relaxed, like lavender or your favorite flower, or the smell of your favorite tree. And just letting every cell of your body saturate in the energy of safe, secure. Breathing in and dropping in deeper into your being, safe. Also, in your safe place, you can invite anyone in that is supportive to you. And since we're doing inner child work, someone that represents an ideal parent, a loving mother, a loving father, a protector. You can decide. Think about what your child most needed, your inner child, or the thing that you give to your kids. That is always the way to find the soul medicine you need. It's a really good way to do it. So in this safe place, just receiving what you need to fill up as the adult that you are, to be present to the one who needed an adult like you, your inner child. Staying connected to yourself in the adult energy, staying connected to your support, the protector, the loving mother, whoever's there with you, and staying connected to your safe place. We're simply going to allow a time to form, just to pop into our minds, a time when that child you were needed someone to be present to them in the way that only you can now. And just allow an image to form of an age that you were, and what you were doing and where you were. And now, very simply, I want you to imagine walking into that scene as the adult you are, with all of your wisdom, with all of your love, with all of your soul medicine. And I want you just to connect with that child. The goal of this meditation is to make that connection and to heal that disconnect in that child, and to reclaim the potential of that child. So I'd like you just to go ahead and say this out loud if you're comfortable, or just quietly in your own being, talking to the child. I'm here for you. You matter to me. Your safety and well-being matter to me. I see your potential. I see your uniqueness. And I love all of you. I love you. You are lovable. You are worthy. You are wanted. You belong. Notice what's happening as you're connecting with that inner child. Notice what else he or she needs. And take any action that's needed, or what you feel called to. Maybe you just feel like putting your arms around that child, or holding that child's hand, The goal is to make contact, connection, and go ahead and ask that inner child, is there anything you need from me? And listen. And go ahead and say also, it is my honor to take care of you. It will be my honor to take care of you in the way you always needed. Now, notice what's happening. And this may take some time to develop this relationship, to reclaim this energy. Just be patient. And now I'd like you to go back, bring your awareness back to your heart space, and imagine creating a beautiful, loving space for this child to come live in your own heart. Imagine everything you wanted and desired as a child in your own heart. And then just invite this child to come inside your heart and place your hands over your heart. I'm naturally rocking, it just feels right. And you can maybe imagine that if you were connecting with the child in a loving, compassionate way, connecting. And then now I'd like to invite you to make some promises. Like perhaps I promise to check in on you. I promise to keep you safe. I promise to let you play. I promise to always love you. I promise to accept you just as you are. I promise to protect you. I promise to help you. Whatever your inner child needed, promise that and do the best you can to practice that. And so every day you can simply put your hand over your heart and just check in. How is that inner child doing? And what does she or he need? It's also important, especially when we are feeling fear or feel triggered, to put our hand over our heart, because it's usually the child that's triggered. It's usually the child that's in fear. And just simply put your hand over your heart and say, I got you. You're okay. So just breathing and noticing how your body feels in this moment now. And see if there's any agreements needed for this child that you can take action on today or tomorrow. To love yourself and that inner child forward each and every moment. To welcome that potential that's been frozen in that child, welcome it back, and notice what you're drawn to. Maybe you might notice you're giggling a little bit more. You may notice that you want to do some artwork. You may notice you want to play or practice a sport that you haven't practiced for a while, or play a musical instrument that you used to play. Just allow and trust. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. I hope this helped. And I hope that we connected you back to that beautiful child that you were, so she or he can live through you in this beautiful life that is. Take good care of yourself until we meet again next time. Love yourself from within and know that you are safe and all is well. Take good care.